Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Live with Lighthouse. Thanks for tuning in with us on this great Friday. Want to welcome everyone back to the show where we guide you to the technology and talent solutions to drive your business forward. My name's Joe Ray. I'm your host for this week's episode and really excited for today's discussion. Before we get started, wanted to send a quick thank you to everyone who came out to the Forge Buffalo 716 Career Fair last night, met our team at Lighthouse. Claire Stroh had a great time offering LinkedIn profile reviews. And thanks to Kelly Butch from M&T Bank as well for coming out. Really appreciate everyone's support and really hope a lot of job seekers learned a lot from our team during that event last night. So look forward to connecting with everyone after there. Really excited for a discussion today on building inclusive leadership and developing your organization. Really excited to welcome our guests up. I had to wear my red shirt today too because the people who offer the red shirt treatment are represented by this wonderful guest that we have today, and want to welcome Kim Marino onto the show today from Independent Health. Kim, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Joe. I appreciate you wearing your red shirt. Me too.
Love it. We planned it that way. Works out well. Kim, wondering if you can tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, great. Thanks. And thank you for having me on the show, Joe. It's been really great getting to know you and working with you. And I was really looking forward to our conversation today. But, I've been with Independent Health for almost 25 years, I should say. Always have been in the L&D, OD world, which is something I'm super passionate about. It's interesting to see not only how healthcare has changed in the last almost 25 years, but even just the way our organization and our business has really evolved. So it's been a great ride, really great ride.
Incredible. And can you talk a little bit about your work? And I know you have a couple different facets of talent development that you work on with Independent Health. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So for the past almost 25 years, I've been in the L&D, OD world. So that's part of what I do, which again, super passionate about and love what we do as an organization around that. But then I also am very fortunate to be able to work on our diversity, equity, inclusion efforts as well. So something that we started back in, I think, 2008, and really, again, have really seen that of my role really evolve, and now really being kind of a dual role, OD and our DEI role. And it's been, like I said, a great marriage really of those two functions, which I think we'll probably get into in a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do. And think definitely that conversation's changed a lot in recent years as well, thinking about DEI as a broader concept, how it's ingrained into your organization. And then obviously in your role too, thinking about that as something that's an important factor when you're thinking about leadership development, elevating people who are going to make a difference within an organization like Independent Health. One thing about all that, I'm curious to know what part of your everyday work really inspires you the most?
Really, I get inspired by the individuals that I work with. And I think some, maybe yourself and others on the call might be familiar with Strengths Finder. And developer happens to be one of my top 5 strengths. So it very naturally aligns with what I do, which is why I think when I tell people I don't feel like I work a day in my life, it's because it just aligns with so much of who I am as an individual and my kind of my natural strengths. But it's really cultivating potential in others, and whether it's individuals or leaders or the organization as a whole, or even the Western New York community, is really the work that we do with DEI helps to cultivate potential in the Western New York community. It's really looking for that potential and working with individuals on what that looks like for them. And when I see individuals grow, that is what gets me up every single day.
I love it. I love it. There's one thing you said in there that I'm a little curious about too, speaking about DEI as a way to connect with the community and find ways to create opportunities for people. We've talked a lot on the show about transferable skills and kind of how people from different backgrounds can evolve and be trained into different roles and things like that as well. If they have the soft skills, if they have the things you can't teach that would make them really great in a role. Is that the kind of thing that when you talk about leadership development, organizational development, and DEI and having those together, is that something that kind of has been beneficial from that overlap for you?
It really has. And I think if you do any sort of reading or research on DEI and OD, It is just a natural overlap. And research proves that when an organization focuses on diversity, equity, and inclusion, they have higher associate engagement, employee engagement, and they just perform better. And so it's backed by research. So again, it's a natural marriage for us. It's important for us to recognize the differences and appreciate the differences of all of our associates. And truly what we want them to feel is very welcome to bring their authentic selves to work, whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. And when an individual feels that they can bring their authentic selves to work and that they have a safe place for it, it just naturally transcends into the work that they do and into the work we do within the Western New York community. We do focus quite a bit on culture. We have very high culture satisfaction scores within independent health. We always have. Our questions around diversity, equity, and inclusion are extremely high. Between, the 4 questions or 5 questions that we ask range between 84% and 90%. Like they're extremely high scores. And so we're, again, really proud of the work that we do internally, which again transcends into the work that we do in the Western New York community. You talked about developing skills, and through our LD and OD work within independent health, that's what we focus on. We have programs and we work on development with individual contributors, with team leads, with leaders within, again, the Western community. And it aligns to the work that we do on even workforce development. So when we look at the whole associate experience, anything from, getting candidates to onboarding to their, getting them through their tenure, and even offboarding, whether it's to another part, we develop them and they're moving, thankfully, to another bigger role or a different part of the organization, or, natural progression. Some of us, some leave, right? Not me, mm-hmm. Some been here for a while. Some leave, and how can we make this a really good experience so that they can take that with them? And the work that we do around workforce development has been really incredible over the last couple of years, really focusing on increasing those skills within the Western New York community, so we can break some of those systemic barriers and challenges that some of our Western New York community has. Again, thankful that I work for an organization that not only cares about their associates internally, but also really cares about the communities that we live, work, and play, and honestly serve. And we do feel like we need to serve the Western New York community. And so when we look at developing workforce readiness skills or getting them ready to, apply to independent health, which of course we'd love individuals to apply to us, but our goal really is to increase skills to make an individual marketable in any organization that they can go to. And we partner with a lot of great organizations within the Western New York community, organizations like BCAT and Buffalo Niagara Partnership and 716 Ministries. And, soon we'll be partnering with Matt Urban Center. And so really looking at ways that we can increase the skills for those members of the community that can bring those great workforce readiness skills and make them a very valuable contributor to that organization and to the Western New York community as a whole.
Thank you, Kim. And there's so many people in Buffalo too who are, really involved in those efforts to support communities, to help people learn new skills, to help them, find the tools that they need to access certain opportunities. It's really incredible. And then part of that experience too, then, is that when they get into a new job at a place like independent health, they have to have, incredible leaders who are going to set that culture, help to support them within those roles as well. Right. So I know you mentioned LD leadership development kind of as part of your role, your expansive role at independent health. What do some of those leadership development programs look like to help leaders foster that inclusive environment?
So actually a couple of things. So for the last couple of years, we've done some very targeted awareness and education for our senior leaders and above. And so brought in a consultant that worked with us for a couple of years and did some work around, awareness and behavior change and really cultivating what DEI would look like and how to lead with an empathetic heart. And we've also done the same awareness training through our associate population. And honestly, we have a session that we require all new hires to attend called the Power of Inclusion, so that they understand when you work at Independent Health, these are some expected behaviors and ways of working together. But beyond that, we're actually, one of my projects and roles is to work on remodeling our competency and performance management model, and inclusive leadership is now included. So there's behaviors around it, and leaders also will be held accountable to those expectations and to those behaviors.
Excellent, excellent. And that all ties into, we talked with Kendra Brim on the show a couple of weeks ago, who's a DEI consultant. And we talked a lot on that about how, fostering that positive culture, making sure it's inclusive, making sure it's welcoming to everybody, is really like a whole of organization lift too. So how important is that for you and for Independent Health that you've been able to bring that type of programming, not just to leaders, but also to all your associates?
It's been really, it's actually been really incredible. So Independent Health is a very caring organization to begin with. It's one of our core values, and so is passion. But to see how leaders really are showing up different, much more intentional, much more curious, wanting to do the right thing, wanting to, approach a situation or say the right thing. I get calls all the time from leaders that, will just say, hey, can I just run this by you? I just want to make sure I'm either saying the right thing or handling this, or appreciating an individual the way they might want to be appreciated. And it's really, like I said, showing up and being really intentional. So I think not just raising the awareness around it, but it's been incredible to watch leaders transform and become very inclusive, very intentionally, very mindful, quite honestly, even to the point where one of our diversity goals is increasing diverse spend within the Western New York community. Mm-hmm. And the number of leaders that reach out that say, who can I go to? Give me some names. Is this, and they search out their own. Would this be a diverse vendor that I can work with? And, working with Gary Cohn, our director of procurement at Independent Health, has been amazing. So just the collaboration within our functional areas. And I'll be honest, Joe, we want to do the right thing, but also DEI has become a real thing. And there's other government agencies and regulatory bodies that are now including DEI within their requirements. So, for us to be NCQA certified, there are some things that we need to do as an organization, which, honestly, we had been doing. We do the right thing, so it wasn't a lift for us. And even within some employer groups that we get some RFPs from now, there's some diversity, equity, inclusion questions on some of those RFPs too. So it's not just the right thing to do, it's just the thing to do now.
It is. And coming from the marketing perspective too, and seeing a lot of research on this is something that more and more consumers of every type of product out in the market really want to see too, right? Yes. They want to know the values of where an organization stands, what they support, because people have that core belief inside that they want to align themselves with organizations, with brands that align with their own internal values as well. So doing a lot of that work is probably good too, from the research aspect of some good research of getting to know the people you serve, both your associates, people in the community who are using Independent Health as insurance. Things like that. I imagine there's been some good learning to come from that too.
There has. And, again, with Independent Health, certainly we have the insurance arm, but we also have an Independent Health Foundation who their mission literally is to increase the health and wellness of the Western New York community as a whole. So you don't have to be an Independent Health member in order to take advantage of the wonderful programming that they do within the Western New York community as well.
That's awesome. Is that tied to I think about like the Ready bikes around town too, and some sort of like a bike share and things like that. Like you're involved in as well with things just generally in the Western New York community where people are taking part in healthy activities.
Absolutely. And they also go into areas that may be underserved. So they have really great programming, one that they've done for many years called Good for the Neighborhood. And they offer you can talk to a pharmacist. You can get your blood pressure checked. Some basic health screenings. They give away food to those communities free of charge, and you do not have to be an independent health member. And I forget now if they're in 8 or 10 sites quarterly, so it's a big lift for them. Their Soccer for Success program, same thing. So they work in, I think they're in 8 different sites now, and offer free soccer programs. They give away not just the equipment and the balls, but then they do wellness training and awareness with the kids and with the parents, nutrition awareness. They give away food again, fresh produce. So looking for ways to increase the health of the Western New York community to those really who may not have as much access to that.
Incredible. And after doing all that, I know you said it earlier that you've done some surveying internally, possibly externally too, as part of like the just kind of assessing where your efforts are at. And I imagine there's been a lot of feedback too. Has there been any feedback that's kind of come back through that and said, hey, you've been able to look at that and say, hey, look at the efforts that we put forth as an organization. This is how people are benefiting from it. Has there been any feedback that's been really impactful to you?
It's an interesting question. It is a little bit more difficult to survey the external community. There's, some trust issues with surveys, right? And if my name shows up on a survey somewhere, what's going to happen. But we do get some really good feedback on the work that we do within the community, in particular, when we're at the event. There are individuals who would potentially never understand how some of their medications might interact with each other, or get a blood pressure screening. There literally was, and it has multiple stories with this, but one individual who came for their blood pressure screening, it was so high. And John Rogers, who's our chief operating officer, was at the event and literally sat with this man and ended up driving him to the hospital in order to get care, and literally probably would have had a very serious health condition if they didn't attend that event and get that screening.
Wow. Just kind of seeing the impact of that firsthand too, I imagine is a pretty powerful experience. And to hear that that's someone like the chief operating officer of the organization getting involved too shows that it's like a whole of organization effort.
Absolutely. Dr. Kropp, who's our CEO, is so committed to our efforts, not just within DEI, but with the foundation. What I love about his approach is we do so much in the community, but he's not looking for a lot of, accolades, very pat on the back. What his philosophy is, let's just get the work done and make an impact.
Love it. And thinking about the work and all this, organizing these events, all the development internally as well. You mentioned a little bit too, some of the people like the director of recruitment who you collaborate with on a lot of these efforts. What does the team look like for leadership, organizational development, DEI, all of these at Independent Health? Do you have a team that works directly with you, and who else are you interacting with? Like, who are all the people that make this possible?
Yeah, we're a small but mighty group. I'll admit, even our foundation, all of the events that they put on, a very small but very mighty group. But so we have a learning and development team or talent engagement team. And then there's a few of us that are really dedicated to our DEI resources. So myself and my coworker, Jonathan Warden, really focus on our DEI efforts, but we do collaborate with all of the talent engagement team. I collaborate with our talent acquisition team on workforce development efforts. I collaborate with our quality team, with our government programs team, with purchasing, a huge collaboration with our community relations and community communications area as well, huge in that area. But there's a lot of IT, there's a lot of collaboration, which is great.
Absolutely. Yeah. And there's, we talk about it a lot in our technology work every day at Lighthouse, but there's the tools every day too, that whether you're in an office or you're at home or you're hybrid, however it is, there's the tools to create that type of environment, right? Where you can collaborate and be able to communicate effectively with everyone and get the work done ultimately.
Yep.
How's Independent Health kind of approached that the last couple of years too? Obviously a lot of changes since the COVID pandemic, and then some businesses starting to return to the office. How have you and your team tackled that to keep the work moving forward?
Yeah, so we actually had not skipped a beat, quite honestly. So it was pretty amazing. And, kudos to our risk area. And, we had tools in place. We didn't know the pandemic was coming, but we live in Buffalo and we have snowstorms. So there's some things that we needed to have in place. And so when COVID started, we literally didn't skip a beat. It was a change for us though, because we're a community organization. We showed up every day to the office, and it's funny. We went from having a parking problem to not having a parking problem because we all worked at home. But so that was a little bit of a change. But we were able to flex, very quickly. We didn't skip a beat. From a learning perspective, I looked at it as an opportunity. We did all live sessions. We didn't do any virtual
Nice.
sessions prior to the pandemic. Now our reach is so much greater. You don't have to worry about setup time and getting there, and someone going to be late, and so it really has increased the effectiveness and what we can offer in the kind of the broad associate population that we can reach.
Which is incredible. And all that goes to what we've been talking about this whole time, right? Just the impact of culture and all the little things that make a difference, the development, the training, the support, the everyday, I can just check with this person on Teams or Outlook or Slack or whatever tool people are using just to send a quick check-in, even if you're not in the office right next to each other.
Yeah,
it all makes a big difference. Yeah.
It does. And sorry. And we've done a really good job with that too. Our IT area, certainly that got us the tools we needed right away. And we're not going to say we're perfect, right? There were some blips in the road, but really up and running very quickly, very minimal disruption. We have someone, my counterpart, who focuses, or Kelly Piccone, who focuses on associate experience and connection. And so very intentional ways to connect now that we can get back on campus. We hold quarterly connection weeks that, she develops and really takes charge of. And it's been great to see some associates get back on site, to see some that we don't interact with on a daily basis, because you miss those individuals that you just would walk past, in the hall, or ride the elevator with, or see in the kitchen, or walk into the building from the parking lot. And so, she's done a great job really looking at how we can intentionally connect and bring individuals back together to collaborate better.
Incredible. It makes a big difference. And that's what it's all about, right? Is being able to know the people that you're working with, trust the people you're working with, and be able to, as we've been talking about this whole time, foster this great culture. So
Right.
Love it, Kim. As we kind of start to bring the show home here, are there any other lessons that we haven't hit on yet that you'd like to share with people, kind of in the organizational development, DEI, anything space?
I don't know if there are really any lessons, but I do think that remaining curious and intentional in both of those areas, because they marry so well together, is really important. And to think about culture and not, just culture, OD, DEI, and these silos. They actually really do work together. And if you're looking at one, you might be unintentionally ignoring another. And it's so important that they do work together, and keeping a lot of those things top of mind. And really, like I said, the intentionality and the curiosity is really kind of those into really important points for both organizational development and DEI.
Love it. And it's great to keep that curiosity top of mind too, when these things are integrated into who you are, what you do every day. They're parts of other programs.
Right.
Incredible. Thanks so much, Kim. As we always do with our guests right at the end of the show here, we have the Be a Lighthouse question. Was really kind of the spirit of starting the show, that one of our core values here is Be a Lighthouse, which is all about helping people. So wanted to give you the opportunity here to send a quick shout out to someone who's supported you or helped you learn something new lately.
Yeah, you did mention that to me, and this was the question that I think I struggled the most with, quite honestly. So I'm probably I'm going to go off the rails a little bit with this, but there's two individuals lately that I've been really working with on a regular basis. Jonathan Warden, who I work with very closely, who is an incredible human being. He came to us during the pandemic. He shows up with me every day. I love it. Have learned a lot, different perspectives. But then also Lisa Wardinsky, who's our director of community internal and community communication, it's quite a mouthful, and community relations, really just learning. She's another just incredible human being who has really helped me understand the outside organizations that we really need to partner with, and have made some really great introductions. And someone who I, really look to as a mentor in the DEI space, and kind of navigating through all of the different great organizations that we have in the Western New York community. So I chose two.
all good. It's incredible. And it takes a village, all this work does. So thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Lisa. And thank you, Kim, for coming on the show today to share all your expertise. If people want to get in touch with you, or if they want to learn more about independent health, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Through LinkedIn or my independent health email, which is kim.marino@independenthealth.com. If anyone ever, outside of just learning about independent health, talk a little bit more about DEI, how we started, where we are, organizational development, I'm always happy to, either share a virtual cup of coffee or a real cup of coffee anytime.
Incredible. I'm off to get some coffee for myself as well. Thanks, Kim, for joining us today. Thanks to everyone else who tuned into this week's episode of Live with Lighthouse, and look forward to continuing the conversation soon. Thanks.
So thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.